Hello, 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 and welcome to Walk, Talk, Health. As the name suggests, you and I are going to walk an amazing trail and talk health. Each of these videos covers a topic that will significantly improve your health and well-being. But if you combine the topics we talk about over a series of these walks, it has a powerful impact on your body, your health, well-being, longevity, all aiming to help you live longer, healthier. Where are we today? We're at Jack London State Park. Jack London owned this amazing property with his wife. They actually lived in this cottage behind us whilst they were having their dream mansion, huge big house on the property built. Sadly, the day before they were due to move in, it burnt down. And here is the said house. It must have been truly magnificent when it was finished. It's still pretty incredible right now. Wow. So nitric oxide, what is it? It's a hormone made by the body with the help of friendly good bacteria. In fact, it can't make it without the help of that bacteria. When we eat certain food groups, which we'll discuss in more detail later, the moment it enters our mouth, our saliva starts to break it down and release nitrates. The good bacteria then turn it into nitrites, which is something our body is not able to do. Those nitrites are what are then used by the body to produce the nitric oxide that is so vital for health, as we will discover later in the walk. Okay, are you ready? Let's go enjoy the trail and talk about nitric oxide. One of the historic buildings on the property, believe it or not, is called a pig palace. Let's go take a look. Okay, we've made it to the pig palace. Obviously a lot of work went into this. Pretty cool in a way. I have to say, if I was pig royalty, I'm sure some of my friends would say I am. I'm sure I'd describe this as a palace, although yeah, I imagine in its day this was pretty darn impressive. And then in here, I think, yeah, this is where they prepped the poor pigs. Still, we all like our bacon, right? First decision you need to make on this trail, you continue straight on up. It's a far more gradual, longer but slower climb, or you can go this way, which is the way my wife and I prefer. It's a bit more challenging but way more interesting, as you're about to see. Again, getting into the trees. Something about the air just feels cleaner, more invigorating, and just the beauty of the trees, if nothing else. I mean, beautiful. Okay, so why do we care about nitric oxide? Well, it's probably the easiest way of answering that question is to talk about the health issues that occur if you have insufficient nitric oxide. The first thing to talk about is blood pressure. So nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It basically is involved with allowing the smooth muscles on the outside of every blood vessel in your body to relax. And during that relaxation process, the blood vessels widen. They allow more blood and oxygen and nutrients to flow through them. But without the nitric oxide, they're more constricted, which basically increases blood pressure. Related to that is the increased chances of heart disease. That's because if the blood vessels, veins, arteries are constricted and they're not properly dilated, it makes it easier for plaque to attach itself to the side walls of those blood vessels, and we know that that's what causes the narrowing, which eventually will lead to heart issues and potentially heart attacks. On a related matter, of course, once you get the narrowing, it's more likely that blood clots will form, equally leading to the heart attacks I mentioned, but also strokes. It's also going to affect erectile dysfunction, both in men and women, because that is all about blood flow. And equally, you need to be concerned about increasing your chances of diabetes. Reason being that nitric oxide is actually an insulin signaling hormone. You will generally get greater inflammation in the body. If the blood isn't flowing and taking nutrients, oxygen and LDL and various chemicals that are needed to fight inflammation to the part of the body where it's needed, then the inflammation will only get worse over time. Okay, I'm going to ask you for a huge favour. Please like, comment and subscribe. This channel is not in any way monetized. Its sole aim is to reach as many people as it can to help them on their health journey. One thing I love about walking in trees, in forests, is just the energy you feel from them. It's difficult to put into words, but if you've ever walked in a forest, you'll know exactly what I mean. And you're probably thinking I'm going to be a bit weird here, but there's something about that tree and I just have to hug it. Look at it. Wow. Bit of moss. Oh, yeah. So, how does nitric oxide play its role in all those important things I just mentioned? Well, at the beginning of this video, I explained how the good bacteria in our body help break down nitrates in the food that we eat, specific foods, into nitrites. The body is then able to use those nitrites to produce nitric oxide. In every blood vessel in your body, so that's vein, arteries, capillaries, there's actually an endothelial layer. It's 1 cell thick, and contained within the endothelial layer, I'll get it right in a minute, is cells that produce enzymes. And those enzymes actually act on the nitrites, and that's what produces the nitric oxide. On the outside of every single blood vessel in your body, you actually have a smooth muscle layer. And that's what's used to both contract and expand those blood vessels. That's why things like infrared saunas or saunas generally and cold plunges, etc., are good for the body, because they encourage the muscles to contract and relax, contract and release. And of course, that means you're getting a workout of those muscles and making them stronger for when you actually need them. As you can see, we've come to a lake which for a lot of the year it's actually dry. So in the last video we talked about the importance of the mitochondria in every cell of our body, how they are the powerhouse, and how MNM helps them to produce that energy that we need for our body. So nitric oxide also supports the mitochondria health, because it needs to receive the NAD+ that we discussed last time for it to produce energy. So the better the blood flows to the individual cells, the more of those that nutrient NAD+ is received, which means that the mitochondria can be far more effective at producing ATP and energy. I need to point out that too much nitric oxide is an issue. It can cause health problems. And I mention this because there are a number of products on the market that increase nitric oxide within the body, but you don't need to take them. And in fact, they can be dangerous. We can do this perfectly naturally, and we're going to discuss exactly how we do that next. I thought I'd turn the camera around at this point because we're entering the redwood part of this trail. I mean, they are absolutely magnificent. Never ceases to amaze me how tall these things get. So, how do we increase nitric oxide in our body naturally without taking any additional supplements? So the first thing to do is to eat the right kind of foods. They need to be nitrate rich, so we're talking vegetables. You can actually do a search on the internet and it will tell you which are the most nitrate rich. We all have our personal choices and preferences when it comes to vegetables, but I would do some research, look at the vegetables you like to consume and see just how high in nitrates they are. The second thing is, believe it or not, the simple act of breathing through the nose. The endothelial layer inside your nostrils contains those cells that produce the enzyme I mentioned, which in turn takes the nitrites and produces nitric oxide. So by making an effort to breathe in, particularly through the nose, you're going to ensure that the nitric oxide that is produced in the nasal passages is taken into the lungs and also up into the brain. Interestingly, I think that's why, you know, these specialist breathing techniques work, where you breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. They always say to have a longer exhale than inhale. And I think that's because whilst you're exhaling, the nitric oxide is building up in your nasal passages. So when you take the next deep breath in, you get maximum nitric oxide intake. The next thing we can do to increase nitric oxide production is expose ourselves to more infrared light. Now, if you're going to do this naturally from the sun, you want to go out early in the morning or late in the afternoon when the UV, the damaging part of the light spectrum, is at its weakest, but the infrared is at its highest. Alternatively, you can look at things like infrared saunas, or you've probably seen advertised these red light therapy panels. The next one is something that most people don't like, exercise. But exercise includes walking, and that's what we're doing today. And I don't know about you, but I'm really enjoying this trail. I mean, look, it's fantastic. So I don't even feel like I'm exercising because I'm just enjoying being out in nature, and I guess doing this video too. And finally, the two usual culprit suspects, reduce your stress and get good sleep. Are there things that damage nitric oxide production? And the answer is yes, and it might surprise you to learn what those are. So the first thing to avoid, first demon on the list, believe it or not, is fluoride. If you've never looked at the back of a toothpaste box and read what it says, I urge you to go do it. It talks about you having to rush to a poison specialist if you consume too much toothpaste. But what the fluoride also does is it kills all the good bacteria, well, all the bacteria full stop, right? That's why we use it, to kill the bacteria in the mouth, the bad bacteria. But in the process, we also kill the good bacteria, the very bacteria that breaks down those nitrates into nitrites that we need. So stop taking fluoride. Mouthwash. Yep, I know we all like to have minty fresh breath, but again, the whole point of mouthwash is an antibacterial. Finally, you want to keep down the amount of glucose that gets into your blood from refined sugars and things like chocolate and carbohydrates from things like pasta and rice. Again, I hear you groaning, we all love them, but the truth of the matter is, if you consume too much of that, not only does it increase the chance of getting type 2 diabetes, that we all know that, but in terms of nitric oxide, if you have a lot of sugar in your system, particularly your gut, it encourages the bad bacteria to grow. And yet another steep hill. Okay, if I'm sounding out of breath at all today, if you ever walk this trail, you'll understand why. We've climbed 2.1 miles back to the car park. We have another 1.6 miles to go to the summit. We've got a beautiful stream coming out of somewhere up there. Here comes my my beautiful wife, just demonstrating how steep this trail is. When you first come into the park, it tells you to watch out for rattlesnakes. I'm not sure what kind of snake that is. So we're almost at the top now. That last half a mile was a killer. Just sat on the bench, getting the breath back before we have the final push to the top. But there's a pretty amazing view from here that I thought you might like to see. Okay, we made it. And the reason I'm so excited to say that is we just climbed 1,695 feet in 3.7 miles. The first 1.5 miles of that was pretty much flat, so we've really done the majority of that 1,695 feet in probably 2 miles. I've definitely used my nitric oxide, and my mitochondria have been firing on all cylinders today. Okay, let's summarise what we discussed today. So we found out that nitric oxide is fundamental to every health process that goes on within the body. We have discovered that we need good bacteria to help us produce that nitric oxide by breaking down nitrates into nitrites from the food we consume. We've learned the importance of keeping our microbiome, both our oral microbiome and our gut microbiome, healthy, because without those good bacteria we simply don't get the breakdown of the nitrates that we need. We have discovered that we shouldn't use fluoride toothpaste or mouthwash because it kills the good bacteria both in our mouth and in our microbiome in the gut. And we discovered that the use of infrared saunas or natural infrared light from the sun plus breathing techniques are a good way of generating more nitric oxide. Use a disclaimer, I'm not a doctor, even though I've learnt what I'm imparting to you in these videos from some amazing health professionals. I would recommend you speak to your doctor before you make any changes in terms of lifestyle, supplements, eating habits, etc., as they could affect or interact with other medications you're currently taking. I hope you join me next time, where we're going to be discussing the microbiome, not just the gut microbiome, but also the oral microbiome. We've covered it a little bit today. You're probably going to sense of how important it is, but when we go into more detail, you'll understand why what we eat, exercise, sleep, stress management, how important it is for this ecosystem, and how that entire ecosystem really is the starting point for good health within the body. So join me next time. If you want to know more about nitric oxide from a health professional in a lot more detail, and how these amazing benefits occur within the body, I'd recommend you watch this video here. I found it fascinating. And if you want to know more about NMN, then please watch my video here.